Saving the planet is a lot of hard work. Humanity has enough issues plaguing it without needing an alien invasion to make things worse. Unfortunately, in Earth Defense Force 5, that exact thing happens. Although the game is the 5th main installment in the Earth Defense Force series, the game is in fact the 8th game in the series. The series had its humble beginnings as an entry in the Simple Series 2000 line of games in Japan for the PlayStation 2. The Simple Series games were low budget, and in the case of the first Earth Defense Force game, was available for 2,000 yen, hence the 2000 in the title. The first game did come across the West as Monster Attack, although in Europe only, and from there the Earth Defense Force series grew. Earth Defense Force 5, which I will shorten to EDF5 from now on, is set in a different timeline than the other games in the main series. Unlike the previous game in the series, Earth Defense Force 4.1, where the aliens had invaded in the year 2025, EDF5 has the aliens encountering humans for the first time in 2022. In this game you play as a civilian who had recently signed up to the EDF, and on your first day the base gets attacked by aliens. Much like the other games in the EDF series, the main enemies in the games are giant bugs like ants, spiders and hornets, which come in different variations. These aren't the only enemies, as you'll encounter stronger and more formidable foes as you play through the main story. EDF5 has the most missions found in the series to date, with 110 missions excluding DLC. The main objective in the missions is to destroy as many aliens as you can or survive until the end. Just good, clean fun, right? But is the game any good? Find out in The Good. Following on from EDF 4.1, and one of the biggest things I was looking forward to with EDF 5 was its dialogue, and EDF 5 does not disappoint. The random radio chatter with the leader of EDF and other personnel retained my interest throughout the just under 40 hours I spent in the game, and I thought I'd enclose a segment of the type of dialogue to expect here. I have turned off sound effects just to make it easier to hear the voices.
Watch this!
Oh no! I just saw aliens! I can't believe they're real!
Yes, sir!
What the hell? We've been fighting those outer space monsters all this time and it just came to you?
Shoot up!
I'm not talking about monsters! I'm talking about humanoid aliens!
We have a reported sighting of humanoid aliens.
Not good.
Humanoid aliens?
Extraterrestrial beings similar to humans.
You mean aliens that look like humans?
One head, 2 eyes, with hands and feet. Bipedal.
Good job!
Almost identical to humans. This is unbelievable. Are they aliens? They look like humans! They look just like humans. The resemblance is unbelievable.
Ready for...
This is Scout. The mothership is dropping off something.
Psych! It's robots! The robots are coming down!
These are bipedal robots! And it looks like they are carrying some kind of weapon!
Hey! Those are robots! Humanoid robots! The enemy's new weapons!
Engage enemy robots. Destroy them. I've seen aliens deploying giant walkers to destroy Earth on animes, but I never thought I would see this in real life.
First aliens and now a robot army? It's a robot army! This city is about to be taken over by the robots!
These guys are not robots!
Fire when they...
There are aliens inside! Armor! They're wearing armor! They're actually aliens wearing armor!
Reloading in! Aliens inside! So they're not robots?
Check the inside. I've never seen this type of alien.
I won't let you die!
What are they? They look disgusting! They're different from the aliens we've seen in the past. They're not humanoids. These sure don't look human to me!
Mothership overhead!
The chat wheel and soldiers sharing random banter returns, as well as a new song, though I felt it wasn't as catchy as the one in 4.1, which went to the tune of the Battle Hymn of the Republic. The dialogue still remains as cheesy as ever, and I still like how soldiers will reply to certain commands and sing the next verse of the song if you break out into it. The game's story I felt made a lot more sense and even had a couple of twists that I wasn't prepared for, especially towards the end. The game does have its humorous moments, and it also has more serious moments, and I think EDF 5 strikes a good balance between the two. Playing through the story on harder difficulties is encouraged for the challenge, and replaying missions is definitely something you'll need to do in order to gain more health or get better weapons. The game also has multiplayer when you and up to 3 friends can go shoot aliens together online, as well as split screen co-op for 2-player local play. To begin with, easy, normal and hard are available, with hardest and inferno difficulties unlocked once you complete the main story. The game also has a different variety of monsters to deal with, though the main staples, ants, spiders, hornets and not Godzilla, are still there. EDF 5 introduces a pillbug-like monster returning from Global Defense Force, and EDF 2, which is a remake of Global Defense Force, not Godzilla gets a friend, and of course replacements for the robots seen in the previous game. The flying dragons from EDF 4 are also replaced as well, and I have to add that, like the previous game, there is a really satisfying feeling beating up a monster in a giant robot. I do like the changes made, and it certainly felt more like a new installment rather than an update to EDF 4. Like previous EDF games, 5 also has different classes for different playstyles, and new players are encouraged to play as the Ranger first as it is the most balanced character. The Wing Diver, known as Power Wing in other installments, is your more agile soldier with the ability to fly at the cost of reduced armour and reliance on a jetpack to get around and fire weapons. The Air Raider, who can summon vehicles and act as a support class, though his offensive capabilities are somewhat lacking. And lastly, the Fencer, a heavily armoured soldier who acts as the tank of the group. Slow but powerful, Fencers are difficult to use, but once you get the hang of him, he'll certainly be a powerful addition to the EDF. EDF 5 now has it so that when you collect armour and weapons on the field, you can now collect them for all classes as opposed to the one you're playing as. The drawback here is that the other 3 classes will get significantly less armour points and weapons than the one you're playing as. Duplicate weapons also gives you the opportunities to make existing weapons stronger, adding to the replay value, and with 1078 different weapons and support items between the 4 classes, not including DLC, you'll be sporked for choice and entertained for a long while. Some of the downloadable weapons and vehicles are a little unique, and you'll see blatant product placement to other D3 publisher games such as the bike with Omega Labyrinth Z decals, the truck with Bullet Girls Fantasia advertising on it, and decoys made to act like the girls from Dream Sea Club. Others are super weapons that you need to earn by taking on challenge missions. As great as things are going for EDF 5, it is also a game with flaws, so let's talk about those in the bad. An issue I had with EDF 4.1 was the amount of crowding the game gets when there's too much going on. EDF 5 is no exception to this, and I found that some missions I had no idea where I was going because of the amount of insects or things happening on screen. In the insects case, I just knew that I had to shoot something and not die, hoping that my shot would connect to a living monster and not a dead one. This becomes more of an issue in later missions where enemies will swarm you in order to completely annihilate you, and you'll often find yourself as the only soldier left over having to deal with all the enemies. Thankfully, I wasn't getting screen tearing issues and the game ran quite smoothly otherwise. I also found vehicle controls was something I struggled with while playing through the game. Whether it was riding a motorbike, operating a railgun, or even operating the giant robots in the game, I found vehicle controls were quite stiff and sluggish, and in the bike's case oversensitive. And admittedly, this stopped me from using the Air Raider for a large chunk of the game. The Ranger also gets a few vehicles of his own to summon with his support slot, but I usually equip something to increase his speed. Not to mention that his sprint controls are just as sluggish as the vehicles, and I only really used it to pick up armour, health and weapons spread across the battlefield, as the Ranger has a radius while sprinting that will automatically pick up items if they enter it. Another issue I had with the game is that despite having the most amount of missions in an EDF game, the variety more or less remained the same. Kill all the enemies that show up, or survive until the end, or a retreat order is called. While consistency is a little better, you are jumping from urban areas to countryside and caves, and the areas are more or less reused, despite you leveling the area with your weapon a few missions earlier. However, I think the story and the cheesy dialogue was more than enough to counterbalance this, and I still had fun slogging through it. I will like to point out though that I had an issue with Mission 74 where I had to replay it a few times in order to complete it, due to AI monsters appearing outside the map and not actively attacking the player, staying just outside of range so you can't see them or hit them. I think I've squared off EDF5 pretty well here, so it's about time I give the opinion. For anyone who's seen the review I'd done on EDF 4.1, you'll find that the review from EDF 5 pretty much mirrors it. If you hate bugs and you wish to remove them from the world by shooting at them, then you'll have fun with the EDF games in general. The game is a good example of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but its flaws carry across. If you want a mindless third-person shooter where you just run around firing at insects and aliens by yourself, or with friends while having cheesy dialogue complement it, then this is the game for you. Though prepare to have your screen covered and struggling to see what's going on. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Earth Defense Force 5 a humanoid alien out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.